Hey YouTube, this is Odd Job Entertainment. This is my third take doing this. Maybe someday I'll learn to write a script. Today I want to talk to you about two of the things that I feel is holding back American medicine. First one is the fax machine. Oh my word. There is not a word that accurately describes how much loathing I have for fax machines. If you've ever had the displeasure of working with one, perhaps you'll know the feeling of sheer terror that momentarily takes over your body when you accidentally call a fax number instead of a phone number. That sound that comes through on the phone. Oh, it's a brief moment of shock that you quickly get over and realize, dang it, I have the wrong number. But the fax machine doesn't stop there. It delivers all kinds of misery and pain. Most notably, the fact that you really don't know for sure if anything you send there gets to its destination in a timely manner. Did they receive it? Because, the only way to really know, I guess, would be if you stood by the fax machine and waited for a fax confirmation to print out. But those can often take several minutes. And in the busy day of a healthcare worker, you don't have time to sit around waiting for that confirmation. So half the time you just send it off into cyberspace and hope that it gets there. And if it doesn't, well, you'll try again later. So if you're listening to this and you're wondering, why is it that my doctor's office never seems to be able to get information to other people in a timely manner? Oftentimes it's because we have to send these stupid things over fax. Then, when it gets to the other people, they don't want to touch the fax machine either. So the reason why we tell you that it takes 72 hours for turnaround for faxed documents is simply because we know that if we do successfully send it, it will get to the other place, and then they're not going to check it until some poor sap gets roped into checking it for the whole clinic, and then they get to go through and sort all the faxes for everybody that day. It's an extremely inefficient process. It slows everything down. And then if there's any incongruency with the documentation, it gets sent right back and we have to repeat the whole process again. I hate fax machines, especially given that there are so many better options out there. It's the 21st century and we have developed better methods. We have secure email. Secure email is pretty much all you need, right? If medical companies would start getting on board with secure email, we could get rid of a huge crap ton of paperwork that goes through a medical office. I'm telling you, the stuff that gets sent through fax, it could easily be sent as secure email. It's stuff like filled out prescriptions sent to a pharmacy, transfer of medical records between clinics. It's ridiculous. All this stuff that is printed out on paper to be sent over fax and then reprinted on paper again and then downloaded onto a computer. Where with secure email, you send it from computer to computer. That acre of rainforest in the Amazon gets to stay untouched. Secure email is the way to go. Fax is the way of the dinos, and it needs to go. The second thing that I feel is holding back American medicine may surprise you. And that's because in this theme of modernization, one of the things that really holds us back is the doctors themselves. Now, I don't want to bag on every doctor, and there are certainly some great doctors out there. I've worked with many of them, and I have a long list of doctors that I love and respect, and I think no ill will towards any of them. However, there is a smaller list, albeit, but still a list, of doctors that I did not enjoy working for. And a principal reason among them was their refusal to modernize. I'm talking about the doctors who still sneak a paper prescription pad into the office to write prescriptions instead of learning to write prescriptions through the computer. These computer systems are brilliant. I'm telling you, I've worked with even poor designed computer systems are better than any paper system that we have out there. It just takes the doctor's commitment to learn how to properly utilize these systems. And they've advanced so much in recent years that it's harder and harder to justify doing anything else. even if it's for reasons of consistency or comfort or whatever it may be that causes the doctor to think that, oh, well, the old way was better. It's not, I promise you. Modern systems are almost idiot proof that anyone could learn how to use these systems. They've gotten more intuitive, they've gotten faster, more robust in feature set. I mean, the stuff we have today compared to even just a few years ago is light years ahead of anything that we had back then. And even back then, it was better than a paper system. You see, what happens with the paper system is, I mean, you fall for the trope of doctors have bad handwriting, right? Well, in a paper system, the handwriting is what is making or breaking a patient's care. If you can't understand what is being written by a human on the piece of paper, then you don't understand what they have wrong with them. And that was one of the major driving points for getting rid of paper charts. It also makes tracking chronic illnesses or repeated occurrences of an illness, it makes it nearly impossible in a paper chart because you have to remember the date that that patient had that issue, and you have to go back and look through several documents to try and find where you wrote that down. I've used some paper charting systems in the past, honestly, mostly just when I was in medical assisting school, and I was just so glad when I got into the work field to realize that I would probably never have to actually use those things in a day-to-day circumstance because it was miserable just doing this stuff for the classwork, let alone doing that day-to-day. It's a nightmare. But the systems that we have today, it makes so many things so much better. Take pediatrics, for example. In pediatrics, you want to track height, weight, head circumference to a certain age, of course, and you want to see how the child is growing over time. With a computer system, it's super easy. It generates this pretty little graph for you, shows you what percentile the kid's at what time, according to their age and their gender. It's great. With a paper chart, you have to manually plot those points, and honestly, that kind of information probably gets left out most of the time. Odd job from the future here. I was going back and watching the edit of this video, and I just wanted to clarify this point. I'm not saying that doctors skip over information all the time with paper charting systems. I'm stating that the paper chart system is definitely more error prone, and it does leave a lot of opportunity for things to be skipped. There's always going to be details that are going to be missed at a much higher degree of frequency in a paper charting system simply due to the nature of how these two systems operate. Furthermore, generally speaking, very minute details like updating a percentile chart is oftentimes going to be left as clerical work for one of the understaff, like the medical assistant or the nurse. Doctors oftentimes do not fill these charts out themselves, and that involves another set of hands that is having to interact with the document to ensure accuracy. Anytime you involve more people than is what is strictly necessary, you are also inviting another opportunity for details to be missed or misinterpreted or errors to pop up. Many hands make light work in many other scenarios, but in the case of ensuring accuracy of information, it's always best to get it straight from the horse's mouth. And that's what happens when the doctor's talking to the patient, not when the medical assistant is coming in afterwards to update everything in the patient's chart according to the notes that the doctor has taken. Simply because it's hard to keep track of. Furthermore, if you have a chronic illness like diabetes, how great would it be for your doctor to have years of data at his fingertips and be able to see over time how your sugars have been? Well, in a computer system, you can do that. But in a paper chart system, you can't. You would have to go through and manually find those points and plot them by hand yourself. So let's get this back to why I think doctors are holding us back. There is a diminishing but still very strong faction of doctors who they did not start their careers with these computer systems, and they found it very hard to adapt and modernize. And I'm not picking on older people here. Okay, I understand that it is difficult, but I have been in the position where I have been tasked with trying to help these doctors learn the ropes and try and help them get to a point where they can operate. And a lot of it comes down to simple refusal to try. And that's an attitude that simply can't be allowed to continue in medicine. It's damaging overall to patient care because without using these computer systems, we go back to the very error-prone paper chart systems. And it's simply not an attitude becoming of a medical career where constant adaptation is pretty much an expected norm. If we are allowed to stagnate, we don't develop better treatments, we don't develop better procedures, we stay stuck where we are, and that's not a good place to be. We can always be better. I've worked with doctors who, as I mentioned before, but literally this has happened where I've seen them, instead of wanting to learn to write a prescription on the computer, they'll go for their crutch, which is the paper pad, write out a prescription that way. And then someone has to transcribe that into the computer for them later. It multiplies the work exponentially, but then if there's any error in the paper prescription, well, the patient just walked out with it. It's a lot harder to correct a paper prescription than it is a computer system. What we need going forward, I feel like, is we need more doctors. It's kind of funny. The problem is also the solution. Doctors are part of the problem. They're also part of the solution. We need more doctors who are adaptable, ready to innovate, and creative, and coming equipped with an innate desire to constantly continue to learn and improve. Those are the qualities that we need in doctors going forward. I know my opinion as a medical assistant maybe does not mean much in the eyes of a lot of academics, but I do hope that it at least rings true with some of them out there, because as a medical assistant, I am at least on the front lines working with these people, and I know the kinds of challenges they're running into. And I've seen how these kinds of behaviors can be damaging to patient care. And honestly, it needs to go. It would be so much better if we had doctors who were willing to learn new skills and adapt, as opposed to preferring to stagnate and stay stuck in the old ways. Anyways, I hope this has been somewhat entertaining for you. My little mini rant here. Fax machines and doctors, they all got to modernize. We need to push for this kind of modernization, and in some instances, our lives literally depend on it. This reduces errors, it makes healthcare more reliable, and it improves the overall quality for everybody involved. So that's my opinion. Like, share, and subscribe if you want more content like this. I do art tutorials, video game videos, and then sometimes some medical commentary. So we've got a healthy mix of bizarre and weird here. This is Odd Job Entertainment, signing off.